Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is July 24, 2024, and we are getting into the volume 224. Before beginning this video, as always, I'm going to mention I am not an immigration attorney. This is not legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources like USAS and of course the Department of State with their visa bulletin. Alright, let's start with the very first question from Mariquita Labrado 6716. My son has aged out. Our F3 petition was approved on April 30, 2001. If I'm not mistaken, we were given an email that visa numbers were not available at approximately 2008 or 2009, and now that the interview email was sent, my eldest son, who is now 35 years old, has been taken off the list despite the paid petition receipt, which I received just this year. Man, sorry about that. Can we reappeal this case? Mariquita, thank you for the question. It's a great question. So unfortunately, whenever it comes to aging out, there is really not much you can do. There is, of course, I mean, you can always do some sort of appeal. You can always do some sort of complaint and reach out to NVC and reach out to the US Embassy and reach out to US officials here in the US. But at the end of the day, whenever it comes to aging out, there is really not much that can be done. The best course of action really is to see now, your son, still your son. I'm assuming since your petition was granted, you're a permanent resident. In a few years, you will become a US citizen. So if your son is married already, which I'm assuming he probably is at 35 years old, then you can petition for him in F3 category. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a long time again. In the meantime, you can see if there are any opportunities for work visas, for exchange visas, immigration through employment. There's always some things that you can do to immigrate to the United States of America, especially if you have relatives here. It makes it a lot easier. But as far as his aging out and appealing it, it's really not, because there's just not much, unfortunately, that you can do. So I'm gonna post a response and we're gonna move on to the next question from Shaukat Ali Sheikh 5374. Question on police character certificate from a foreign country. Hi dear, I worked in foreign country while I was 30 years old. Now I'm 73 years old and submitted my immigrant visa application on form DS-260 on the basis of the address NVC has listed to upload a police certificate from this foreign country. Ooh, okay, so 43 years back now. As well, in addition to my native country. What should I do now? Don't know whether I can get a police certificate from a foreign country or not. Should I say that it is not available, and what should I tell in the comment section? CA, I get a documentary qualification without this PCC. Okay, so Shaukat, I would definitely not recommend doing that. I would highly recommend giving your best effort to obtaining that police certificate. If they have requested that police certificate, it means they need it for documentary qualification. I've seen a case personally where very similar situations to yours, and they did a good explanation and they responded to NVC that they will not be able to provide the police certificate, and NVC ended up not documentarily qualifying them. And yeah, they ended up basically trying harder and they got the police certificate on the second run and they became documentarily qualified. So yes, if they're requesting it, do your best to get it. It shouldn't be that hard. I mean, it depends. It really depends on the country. But right now, a lot of countries, they are, because they know that such things are often requested by embassies, by foreign governments, they do have online systems that issue these police certificates. So yeah, unfortunately you would have to work on getting that police certificate. So let me post the response here and we're gonna move on. Looks like same question from on a different video, so shortcut, I'm gonna post the response here as well. And let's move on to the next question from YGG or Wahihi $7757. Hey, I just came across your video and I just subscribed. You're doing a great job. I have a question for you. I was granted asylum on July 1st, 2024. All right, congratulations, just 23 days ago. After being in US for 7 years. Wow, I have just filed for my family to come over here. I'm from Cameroon. How long should I take to file for my green card? I will be happy to hear from you. Thanks. Wahihi, 1 year. After you get your asylum granted, 1 year with a granted asylum, and you can submit for the adjustment of status for becoming a permanent resident. So yeah, really straightforward. All right, let's move on to the next one from T Wes Wesy Lower. Thank you for being public subscriber. Appreciate that. Says thank you, really helpful. Glad this was helpful. Moving further to Marie Lou Estrada 1198. Hi, thanks for the video. I had a work permit through DACA, but it expired in May. Okay, I have not renewed it yet because I want to send in my AOS, okay, adjustment of status packet. What should my answer be on part 2, question 25 and 27? All right, Marie Lou, let's take a look and see what it is on the part 2. And that's the question on I-765, which I think should be, yep, there you go. So let me open it and we'll take a look. So part 2, 25, 27. So part 2, 25 and 27. Okay. Your current immigration status or category, for example, B1. Okay. So your current immigration status. So your current immigration status is, so you got it initially through DACA. So I'm assuming that you still might be in the DACA status. I'm not personally familiar with DACA cases, but if that is the case, if you're still in that DACA status and you're applying for your permanent residence based on that DACA status, then you could just put the DACA. It will be completely fine. And as far as the 27, where you do have to enter eligibility category, it's going to be exactly the same eligibility category as you applied initially for your employment authorization, which again, based on that DACA status. So you should know it should be exactly the same stuff. Because so if you get when you get your permanent residence, we're not gonna worry about that. So I'm assuming your question comes in from that change of status that you will experience with this application package. Because in the meantime, you're getting this submitted, and honestly, you don't have to wait to send this with the adjustment of status package, because once your adjustment of status application is processed, you won't need the employment authorization anyway, because being a permanent resident after the adjustment of status, you already are, by the definition of being a permanent resident, you're authorized to work in the United States of America. So you really don't need the EAD at that point. Now, in the meantime, while you're waiting for that adjustment of status to be processed, yes, of course, you want to have a valid employment authorization document. So you really don't need to wait for that application package to send it together. You can do it right now online, the I-765, just so that you don't have any issues with really anyone, but really it's your employer. In case if they have the record and they see that it's expiring, they might say, hey, we see that your employment authorization has expired. Did you submit the application for the renewal? And if you didn't, they might have additional questions. But if you did, you can just show them the receipt and that's it. You're good to go for however long. But once your adjustment of status application is processed, you're really not going to have any need for employment authorization. So hopefully my response makes sense. If it doesn't, you're more than welcome to come back to this channel. Let's move on to the next one from Wilson Acosta 9031. Can you talk about the new parole when it goes out on August, please? So this was a question on I-821, application for temporary protected status. All right, well, I'll see. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but I'm assuming you're talking about the list of countries that are available currently for the TPS, which I did mention in I-821. That's why I did the updated version just recently. But yeah, I'll try to do that. Let's move on to the next one from MBA or Kail. Can I apply for I-131 online if I have TPS? Great question. So let's take a look. I know that the online applications for A21 are currently limited to only a few applicants, and I'm pretty sure temporary protected status is there, but let's take a look and see for sure. So no, we can't see that. Wait, we're not in the right one. We're going to 131, not the I-821. So application for travel document, there we go. Okay, so online filing is currently available for those individuals requesting parole based on urgent humanitarian reasons. So that's not applicable to you because you already have a granted temporary protected status. Individuals inside the United States already paroled into the United States who are requesting a new period of parole or reparole under application types 1E or 1F on the paper form I-131 to remain in the United States. So let's see what that is, 1E and 1F. So let's open up 1E and 1F in this form. And 1E, we got, I am outside the United States and I am applying for an advanced parole document. I don't think that's applicable. I'm applying for advanced parole for a person who is outside the United States. No, I don't think so. So let's see, I'm a permanent resident condition. I hold U.S. refugee. I'm a permanent resident. Direct result. I'm applying for advanced parole to allow me to return to the United States after temporary foreign travel. So no, I don't think you will be able to, because if you have an active, if you have a granted TPS right now and you are in the United States, then unfortunately online application is not available as of right now, at least for you to do. So you would have to file a paper application. So let me post the response and we're gonna move on to the next one from Deacon Tipaji Boshar. Hello sir, my priority date was 22nd March and was approved in July 10, 2023. My husband is a US citizen. I'm from Liberia. How long will I have to wait for my visa interview? Okay, so your husband is a US citizen. That means you're in immediate relative category. Your petition was approved on July 10, 2023. Now, when you say it was approved, are you referring to USCIS part or the documentary qualification? Because if it is USCIS part, once USCIS approves the I-130 petition, they transfer the case to NVC for further processing to become documentarily qualified, which takes, it can take as long as, since you are immediate relative category, the NVC portal is immediately open, but it can take up to, 6 months to become documentarily qualified. Or if you're referring to being approved, already documentarily qualified. But anyway, I'm gonna count extra 6 months for that, whether it is approved by USCIS or whether it is documentarily qualified by NVC. Once it is documentarily qualified by NVC, it is transferred to the US Embassy. Now, US embassies around the world, they have different wait times for the interviews. They schedule the interview quite quickly. Once they receive the case, within a couple weeks, they schedule the interview. But the wait time for the interview, it can be as long as, some countries, on average, it's about a year. Some countries, as little as 6 months. Some countries, like India, Philippines, they have 2.5 year wait. So Liberia, I would not expect it to be as busy as some of these countries with heavier immigration traffic. So I would say on average, let's take about a year. So we have about a year wait for an interview. We have 6 months plus minus for the difference between USCIS approving petition and you becoming documentarily qualified. So about a year and a half. So if we take July 10, 2023, it's been a year now. So I am pretty confident that you should be getting your interview scheduled by the end of this year. Now, because if you're already documentarily qualified, that is, it's very important. So if you can, please come back and let me know whether you're documentarily qualified or not. Because if you're not, then you still have to go through this process. Honestly, by now you should have been already documentarily qualified. But again, some cases, some situations, people can experience delays. I see the delays with documentary qualification pretty much all the time. You submit stuff, they say no, this is not it, we need more stuff, and then they take another 3 months to review it, and then so it's quite normal for documentary qualification process to take some time. So please let me know. But if you have been documentarily qualified back in July 2023, then your interview really is around the corner. And in fact, I would even recommend calling US Embassy in Liberia, where you will have your interview, and asking them and saying, hey, listen, I'm already documentarily qualified, been documentarily qualified for a year now, and I'm in immediate relative category. Let them know so that they know that your immigrant visa is definitely available and that you want to see when the interview was scheduled for, and hopefully they will be able to provide that information. If not, don't be upset, don't try to argue. As I always mention to everyone watching these videos, pointless to argue with government officials. Alright, let's move on to the next one from Zodiac Nub. Hi, priority date 2011, September, category F3, India. How much time left? Alright, let's take a look at the visa bulletin F3 and see what's going on. So I'm gonna look at the graph A to see the full length of the backlog up until the availability of the immigrant visa. So we got F3, India is currently on April 1st, 2010. Alright, and you are in September 2011. So roughly you have about a year to April. So no, you're September 2011 and it's April. So you have about a year and then minus, you're in September. So yeah, so October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So roughly about 7 more months before the availability of the immigrant visa. And that is if the visa bulletin keeps moving 1 month every month, which often is not the case. So it's a very rough estimate. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, India does have quite a long wait for their interview. People waiting for an interview quite a long time in India. So count that in as well. But yes, you're pretty close to availability of the immigrant visa. Keep checking the visa bulletin every month. The new one comes out on this channel. Once the new one comes out, I do make a video on it. But yeah, hopefully it keeps on moving consistently. But yeah, as of right now, about 7 months to the availability of the immigrant visa, plus the amount of time you're gonna be waiting for, the interview line. That is, in India, they experience quite a long wait, unfortunately. It's like 2.5 years as of right now. Hopefully the numbers will be coming down, but that's the case as of right now. Alright, let's move on to the next one from 9670. Can you file for your sister or brother? So that was a question on petition for alien relative. I-130, yes, absolutely. If you are a US citizen, you can petition for your sister or your brother. There will be F4, forced family preference category, which does take quite some time. So if you're planning to do that, I recommend doing it. The sooner you do it, the better. Also, I wanted to mention I do have an updated video on I-130. So if you will be doing that, make sure you're following the updated one. Alright, so let me post a response and we're gonna move on to the next one from Ina Olano. Hi all, my mom, a green card holder, filed Form I-130 for me when I was only 20 years old. Now I am 22 and still waiting for it to be approved. I would like to know if my age would change my status from unmarried son daughter under 21 to unmarried son daughter over 21, considering that the application was filed before I turned 21. Thank you very much. Ina, so here's the thing. So she is a permanent resident, filed I-130 for when you were 20. So now you're 22. So she filed 2 years ago. So whenever it comes to permanent residence, yes, it will change it to from the F2A child. So as you know, Department of Homeland Security, it's for them, you know, child is anyone under 21. Yeah. So you were in F2A, and yes, it will be switched to the F2B, unmarried sons and daughters over 21. And yes, there is a significant amount of wait time that is added, unfortunately. So yeah, honestly, I would, because she's well, that's the thing. Even if she gets her U.S., you know, even if she becomes naturalized U.S. citizen, and it does updates to, the petition does update to the F1, which is unmarried sons and daughters over 21 of U.S. citizens, you still are looking at, actually it's longer than the F2B. So you are better off in being F2B. Yeah, so let's see, so you're in F2A, it's been 2 years. Let's see how long the wait time for F2A is as of right now, November 2021. So it's about 3 years right now. So you're still looking at another year. Yeah, unfortunately it looks like that's going to be the case. So there's additional time, and honestly, I would be looking in the meantime on other means to travel to the United States, whether it's non-immigrant visitor visa, whether it's a student visa, maybe some kind of exchange program. All right, let's move on to the next one from HBK206. Hello, age is 22, April 18th, 2002, documentarily qualified November 2022, and November NVC emailed today saying the case is still waiting for interview. And in 60 days, they will email again to confirm if case is still in interview line or scheduled. For F2, subcategory 2 visa, am I safe under CSPA? Priority date is June 16th, 2021. Okay. So, you are 22. And you're still waiting under F2, under second preference, under F2A. So very similar situation to Ina here. So here's the thing. Whenever it comes to CSPA, unfortunately, it rarely works for categories like F2A. And the reason for that is because F2A, because it's only about 2-3 years for the availability of the immigrant visa, F2A petitions, they tend to be processed by USCIS a lot faster than other petitions in other categories, which you would think, oh, that's a great thing. But it's not a great thing for CSPA, because that's what you are, that's the amount of time that you can subtract from your age on the day of the availability of the immigrant visa, is that pending, the amount the petition was pending with USCIS, which in most of the other out of the 4 family preference categories, it can be as long as 3-4 years, and substantial amount of time that you can subtract. But in cases like F2A, it's a lot faster. We are talking about 6 months to a year, and that is not a lot of time. So what I would recommend doing is, because you are documentarily qualified in 2022, priority date is 2021, it's pushing it really close because that's what we're looking at right now. So your immigrant visa, they're in November and you are in June. Yeah, so your immigrant visa should already be available. And most likely your interview is already scheduled. You just don't know it yet because they cannot announce the interview earlier than 30 days before the actual interview date. All right. Sometimes it's 60 days, very rarely, but most of the times it's 30 days. So, and you were 22. So it's very, very close. So look at the original receipt. You have priority date June 16, 2021. It should be the same date on the original receipt from the USCIS. And then pull up, if you can, the approval notice from USCIS and calculate the amount of time between the priority date, the original receipt, and the approval, the notice of action that says that's it, your petition was approved with USCIS. Not NVC, not documentary qualification, just the USCIS part. That's the amount of time you will be able to subtract technically from the day the visa is available. But a lot of times they calculate it on the day of the actual interview because they say, okay, well, on the day of the actual interview that we issue the visa, that we say the visa is granted, that's the day the availability of the immigrant visa, not when your priority date become current. So you should account that amount of time as well, how long you will be waiting for an interview. So here's a few things that you need to do. Calculate that USCIS pending petition. And I would recommend doing the same thing to you, but because you still have some time that you will be waiting on, because yeah, it might not work for you. But for HBK, it might actually work for you. So calculate that amount of time, USCIS, and then reach out to the US Embassy, wherever you will be going through the interview, and see if they can tell you when the interview was scheduled, and if not, at least how long approximately the wait time for this interview line that they have. And yeah, and see if you can, subtract enough, and if you're safe. When I say safe, you have extra year. And if it's less than that, then there is a potential for aging out. And if there is a potential for aging out, then you should be looking at other avenues, so that you could travel. Okay, let's move on to the next one from Funny Clips. Hey sir, please can you tell me what are the F4 visa interview? What are the F4 visa? Knowing that the main applicant, my father, is a lawyer in Morocco and so is my mother. What are the F4 visa interview? So I'm assuming you're referring to F4 family preference category, forced family preference category, siblings of US citizens. So if that's the case, the interview is pretty straightforward because all you're doing is establishing the relationship, which you already done through the documentary qualification process in advance, showing that this is actually your brother or actually your sister and they are actually US citizens and they're willing to sponsor you. So the only other thing that's left to do is to show the intent to immigrate. That's really it. But let me know if I understand you correctly, and I will try to address it a little bit better if not. All right, let's move on to the last couple of questions that we have for today from Alhamdulillah 09688. Hi, my case is IR1 now. My documents are qualified. I'm from Pakistan. When do I have chance for interview date? So your case is IR1. Documents are qualified. I'm from Pakistan. So the good news is that your immigrant visa is already available. That's it. It's ready. You're already documentarily qualified, so chances are your interview already scheduled. Not so good news is that the US Embassy in Islamabad, they are very busy. And as far as I know from this channel, the wait time is like 2.5 years. So depending on how long you've been documentarily qualified already, if you've been already documentarily qualified for over a year, then potentially you're looking at about a year another wait for the interview. But the best thing, again, if it's been at least 3-4 months, reach out to the US Embassy in Islamabad and let them know, hey, I'm immediate relative category, I'm already documentarily qualified, been documentarily qualified for a few months, wanted to see when my interview was scheduled for. And if they say, no, we can't give you that information, say, okay, well, at least can you tell me how long the wait time is for these kind of interviews? And if they still say, no, we can't give you information, say, thank you. No worries at all, I appreciate that, because it's pointless to argue with people from government. All right, let's move on to our last question from Patricia P9709. Hi, thank you for all you do. I asked a question, but I didn't hear the answer. I wanted to know if the COVID vaccination is still mandatory as part of the medical examination for the immigrant visa interview, and also if one should refuse to take it, what will be consequences, if any? And then there is an answer from Shelly Ann Baker 9075. Did my medical last month and it's still mandatory. Yes. So Patricia, sorry I couldn't get to your question in a timely manner. As you can see, these questions are coming in pretty much non-stop. Can't keep up with everything, but yes, unfortunately, it's ridiculous, honestly, but it is still required, yes, as part of the medical examination. And there is really nothing, it's beyond ridiculous, but there is nothing that we can do, immigrants, as far as that. If you refuse it, you won't be able to immigrate. It is required. It is on the list of required vaccinations. So what I would recommend doing for everyone who's watching this channel and who's having a similar situation as Patricia P, a lot of times we already went through certain vaccinations. So find the record of all of these vaccinations that you went through. And you might just find out that you might have already gotten that vaccination as well. And if you can get a record from the local doctor or from your doctor, your personal physician or whoever, your neighborhood nurse or whoever, in different countries, the circumstances, the situations, how healthcare system works is different. Get the record and bring it and say, hey, I can't do it. This is going to be like a double vaccination. It's not healthy. Here's the record. I already done it. And yeah, you might already have it, Patricia. You just don't know it yet. Just check with your local nurse or your local doctor, and they might tell you, and then you can get the paper from them, and that's it. And as far as people who are on this end of the border, I would highly recommend, again, I hate politics, but I encourage everyone participate in it, to reach out to your local elected officials and remind them that this vaccination is no longer a requirement anywhere except for immigrants, which is ridiculous. It shouldn't have been a requirement ever, anywhere at all, period. But that's what happens. That's what happens when you allow it to whatever. But let's not get into the politics. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Patricia, hopefully you can resolve this issue. And if you have any follow-up questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm sorry if I cannot get in a timely manner. As you can see, it's more and more questions every day. So yes, there will be time I won't be able to get to them quite as efficiently as, and I'm not efficient now either. So if it's urgent, make sure to post that question again and again and again, and eventually I will get to it. Thank you for watching, everyone. God bless, and I'll see you all in the next video.